there. So volume of a cube is length times width times height. So if all these sides are equal, they're all x minus 5. So they are x minus 5 cubed. That is the volume. Length times width times height. Now, I'm going to put this. This is not equal to x cubed minus 125, meaning x cubed minus 5 cubed. That is a lie. All right, so definitely write that down and say that is naughty. All right, this is x minus 5 times itself 3 times. And then what you have to do is go through a process of foiling. And I'm going to use the word. I don't understand why we had a problem with FOIL. All you do is slow down. I have to slow down. I've done this for 30 years, and I still draw the lines and keep myself organized. Those that can't keep themselves organized cannot FOIL. All right, and that's the problem. Line, multiply. Line, multiply. Line, multiply. I'm not going to say that all day long in these notes. And then you have to wait. And I'm going to run out of room, so I'll have to probably slide over to the other side. And then you could skip a step here or there. Like you might have gone right to this, and I'm going to do that later. And I'm treating this like this is brand new. Like I've treated everything this year, even though I've said you should know how to do this in some things. But all right, I'll show you. This should be review, kind of stuff. And then now I have a trinomial times a binomial, which is, I can't use the word FOIL because there's not 4 multiplications, there's 6. But it's a cousin of FOIL and or distribution. Take the x squared and distribute it. And distribute it. Draw the line. And then keep yourself organized. Then take the negative 10x times x and carry the negatives. So that minus 10x is a negative. That's a negative times a negative, which is a positive. I'm going to run off the screen here. So plus 50x. I double check too sometimes, making sure. Plus 25x. It's funny. I think this is exactly our starting example tomorrow with a new way of looking at this. So it's going to be kind of funny. I think it is because I just looked at those notes that I found from the old days. What's 5 quarters? That's a $1.25, isn't it? Minus 125. And then you see some like terms. Minus 15x squared. When you add squareds, it's just, an x squared. You don't do anything with the exponents. These kind of things. Plus 75x minus 125. So it is going to be a little bit of work. And you bums that just write the answers that you copy from answer keys, that absolutely will not work in this. I can't just look at that and say this is what the answer is. So how could you? You're not fooling anyone. All right. So volume of a rectangular prism are cubic functions, blah, blah, blah. You can read. I don't want to be a reader here for you. All right. And then just this, wax on, wax off, just do the work. And I'm not going to do all of these examples, but I will do the first one. What's the word for this? Starts with a D. Distribute. Negative 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Please don't add. Get people writing negative 5 for that all the time. Drives me crazy. That's wrong. X what? What am I doing? X squared times x is x cubed. And then minus minus is plus 2x squared. And then negative 2x plus or times 6 is negative 12x. Okay, remember, good FOILers are what? Or whatever. Good distributors are good factors. This is the answer today. Next week, this is the question, and I'm going to ask you to factor, and that's the answer, right? And that's why I had a big problem with people having a big problem with how to factor. It's just the reverse of multiplying, and that's how I did this back in August, September, right? Really express that way. This one's a little different though. What I would do right away on this is cancel that and write x plus 4 is right next to it. That's what x plus 4 cubed means. Now what I have to do is take this a step at a time. I have to take the first 2 and multiply. This is what I would do on a quiz. I would get rid of the cubed and write it 2 more times so showing that it's something times itself 3 times. X squared. And then let's start getting to this. You ready? Can you do this? What's x times 4? Say it. Say it. 4x. And then what's 4 times x? What's 4x plus 4x? Now, these are the steps we should be skipping because we're in an honors class and this is not brand new. All right? And then what's 4 times 4? 16. So these are things we should do as we see something again that we've done before. Start speeding things up. This is people that do finish tests in a very fast manner. This is why they're efficient and they get these things. Well, maybe not this one so much, but on the next one maybe I will, but we'll write all these out. So this is x cubed. Notice how I do it. Not just doing this for you. If I had to do this, I would definitely keep things in order as I draw the lines. Not missing anything. Like I know everything in the trinomial will multiply by the binomial. 2 lines should come from each term. 8x and 8x, or 8x times x is 8x squared. 8x times 4 is 32. Even though the lines kind of cross over each other, the fact that you're drawing the line means you're connecting those two, and you have to multiply those then. Okay, and I got to connect that one. Ooh, 40, 64. Should have known that. That's 4 cubed. All right, and then the final answer, squeezing this in here. Darn it, that's a cube. 12x squared 48x plus 64. Right? And then I'm not doing 3 because we just did that. Didn't we just have that in the second step of the last question? A binomial times a trinomial, right? Yes, Mr. Samuelis. Sure. Do I have to do 4? I guess someone did ask me this. How do I know I have a negative leading coefficient on some previous homework that I'm going to show you the keys for? And it really is because what's 2x times negative x times 2x? What is this? What is that actually? What's 2x times negative x times 2x? Just tell me what that answer is. It's negative 4x what? Cubed. So if I said f of x equals on this kind of ties into some other notes. And I'll show, and then we will do this and prove this. What if I ask you to graph this, or at least come up with what should the graph look like? It should look like that. Why? Because it's negative 4x cubed as a leading coefficient, negative 4. And that's how you do it real fast. And I'll prove it. When we're done with this, it's going to be negative 4x cubed, blah, 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 all the rest of the terms. This dictates the end behavior, though. That's a tie into previous notes. But let's go ahead and do it. 2x times 5 is 10x. This is kind of a mess. So I don't think I would try to do this one fast because they're not in like terms. Oh, that's squared. I don't know what's going on with my brain. Sorry. That's negative 2x squared. This is 15. See, these are kind of jumbled up where the like terms are. So I might go all the way through. And then just understand 2x minus 3 hasn't played yet, nor can it yet. Then I'm going to write this in descending order with like terms added. 10x minus 3x is 7x. Now, oops, there's another mishap in my brain. Plus 15. Now I am going to hold this in my head. Watch. First of all, there's the negative 4x cubed that I told you was coming. There's our leading coefficient. That's why I should know the end behavior of the graph looks like this. Am I in the screen here? Okay, there's my arm. All right, this is what I'm going to hold in my head. Negative 2x times negative 3 is what? 6x squared. And then this might be too much. What's 7x times 2x? 14x squared. What's negative 6 plus 14? It's positive 8x squared. So tread lightly. The more steps you skip, the more opportunities for getting a wrong answer. But I did skip that, and maybe you can try it sometimes. And then hold this in your head. Negative 21x and 30x. What does that become? 9x. Right? And then the last thing I have is 3 negative times 15, which is negative 45. So maybe not. Maybe you don't want to do that. You better be careful. Okay. Hey, guess what? This is coming. You're going to have this, and you're going to have to factor it and turn it into that. Ooh, now that's where we're going to get. It's going to get a little bit rougher. But we do have some skills. There's something called synthetic division that allows you to do that a little bit faster than you might think. All right. So do think of that. That's the future. That's why I really like how this year ends. Um, but we're multiplying today, so don't confuse. All right. So multiply. Next week is factor. Reverse the situation. All right. Well, multiplying three linear factors. Linear means x to the first is the degree highest in the parentheses. Result in a cubic expression. The answer is absolutely. All right. Because x times x times x is x cubed. That means every factor has an x to the first in it. Does the order in which you multiply factors matter? The answer is no. I did not do this, but we certainly could have taken the second and the third and multiplied them, then multiply the first 2x plus 3 after that. You would still get the same answer. That's called the commutative property of multiplication. 2 times 3 equals 3 times 2. Isn't that correct? Yes, Mr. Samuelus. Now, do I have to do all of these? I really don't want to. I probably could do this one real quick. Hey, remember this? Y times y squared. And then what's negative 3y and positive 3y? What does that become? 0. And then negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. Do you remember factoring a difference of two squares? Do you remember that? All right, so you should, so that you see how when I multiply, I get y squared minus 9. I should be able to factor y squared minus 9 very fast to y plus 3y minus 3. So I keep talking about factoring, because, that's coming up, and we were not very good at it as a whole. And notice I didn't distribute the 2y cubed yet, because here's why. I knew this was going to be an easy multiplication. I recognized it, and hopefully you did. But another problem with people on this is, do I do this, or do I do this? Do I distribute to all four things, or just the first two? What would I do if I distributed this? And that's a good question, right? Because I see some of your faces. You'd only distribute to one set of parentheses. You'd multiply the first times the second, and then take that answer times y minus 3. So that's another problem with distributing when you have a couple sets of parentheses. It would only go through this one if you decided that route. But the smart route is to do this first, and then go ahead and distribute. All right, so distributing 2y to the fifth minus 2 times 9 is 18. Absolutely. Next week, this is a perfect factor completely question. Absolutely. All right. Then looking at these, I don't know. You know what we should be able to do on this one? First of all, you cannot do this. That's out of order for PEMDAS. What does PEMDAS mean? What do I do first? Then what's next? Exponents. And then what's next? Multiply. You multiplied before you did your exponents. That's the number one reason why you do not distribute into a squared. So I know I did this last hour, but I don't think I said that. I just started doing what I would do because I know. I forgot that you guys are like in the beginning stages of your mathematical careers, I guess if you call it that. And so what that means is I need to do this first. Now, I hope you can FOIL a squared quickly. I am going to go ahead and do this, what you should do on a quiz. But then hopefully you can do this fast. Z times Z. Now, when I'm looking at Z minus 2 squared, this is what ultimately happens. First term squared, right? And then the next thing I'm going to do is Z times negative 2, and then negative 2 times Z, which ends up being what? Negative 4Z. So it's this times 2, because you have two products that happen when you FOIL on that. Then the last term is negative 2 squared, which is 4, because you have to take negative 2 times negative 2 as the last of FOIL. Right? So again, hopefully you can square this quickly without having to write that out. This squared, this times 2, this squared. All right? If not, write it out, and then you'll be fine. Okay, 4z squared. So trying to give you some clues how to speed things up because we should be at a review situation right now. And then plus 4 times 4 is 16 again. Z squared. Okay? So multiplying this week, factoring next week. I'm not doing that one. But do understand that this would end up being negative y to the third. You know, if you had to figure out how would this graph real quick from previous notes, and that would eventually occur. All right, and then this is a big error. Many of you got caught doing this last semester. X plus 2 cubed, is that x cubed plus 8? Heck no. You don't just cube those and, um, so on and so forth. And I don't feel like explaining today. This is why Max is wrong. This is what you should do, and therefore you get some terms in the middle. You don't just square x and square 2. That should never happen again. And if you are going to do that, and that is going to happen to you, then you're going to get no credit. All right? I'm just going to tell you and warn you ahead of time. Got to get those bad math skills out. How many x-intercepts does x plus 2 cubed have? Interesting. Last hour got this wrong. Okay, so how many people think it's 1? Raise your hand. Ooh, interesting. How many people think it's 2? How many people think it's 3? Raise your hand. You better raise your hand one way or the other. You didn't raise your hand. Which one is it? Okay, good. It's 1, all right? Because it's 1 x-intercept that has multiplicity what? 3. So what happens with this graph at this position at -2 is it comes through with a little character. But that's only 1 x-intercept. And it just it crosses, but it crosses with an x cubed feature with that flattening aspect, not just straight through. Okay, so I do expect you to know that and have that happen. Okay, all right. So now here's where you're probably the only new stuff today. These next 2 questions. So this might be where we need you. And I did bring this up about when we were looking at graphs and coming up with the equation from a graph. We really should be talking about the A term, the leading coefficient. So a cubic function has zeros of blah. If the leading coefficient is 1, okay, fine. Leading coefficient's 1, which is what we had on our previous stuff. What is the function in standard form? You must understand that that means multiplied out. That's what standard form is. Ax cubed plus bx squared plus c, that's what it means. So I guess reading the directions for you. But hey, what do we know about -4 is a 0? What does that mean as a factor? It's x plus 4. Why? Because when I plug in -4 in for x, what's -4 plus 4? That's why it's called a 0. All right, and that's the reason. And then that means for 2, it's x minus 2. And then for 3, it's x minus 3. Now, leading coefficient of 1, that goes out here. Does that change anything? Yes or no? No. But just a note to self that I did account for the leading coefficient. I read the directions. Would mark you wrong if you didn't write it, but hey, let's FOIL fast. X times x is x squared. Hold this in your brain. -2x and 4x. What's -2x plus 4x? 2x. Everyone in this room should be able to do that without a problem. 4 times -2 is -8. And then I think you might be able to do this next part because this one is nicely organized. First, x cubed, and I'm not writing 1 times anymore. And now start holding this in your brain. -3x and squared, and positive 2x squared. What's -3 plus positive 2? What's -3 plus positive 2? -1x squared. Got it? And now 2x times -3 is -6x and -8x. What's -6x plus -8x? -14x. If you don't want to do that and write them down, go for it. The more you do this, the more chances you have of making a mistake anyway. So tread lightly. Now, leading coefficient was 1. I'm not putting that out there and distributing a 1. It doesn't change anything. So that's the final answer in standard form. This one a little different. I guess we kind of made it a little too easy. I wish I said the leading coefficient was -7. You know what? Let's do it. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Let's change this to -7. This is all you do with that. It's not a big deal. You just got to have a calculator. By the way, cubic function zeros of -5, multiplicity 2. You'd be smart right away to maybe write this twice. That's what it means. That multiplicity 2, it's x plus 5 squared. Did you have shirts? Yeah, here you go. No, you're fine. I figured, yeah. I put them over in the piles over here. And then x minus 8. But then you have a leading coefficient of -7 right there. And you're going to hold and wait. That doesn't happen yet. Do that at the end. All right. And then we'll call this f of x equals. Okay, so hold that -7. Don't forget about it. Be a good foiler, because then you'll be a good factor next week. 5x and 5x is 10x. 5 times 5 is 25. I'll write this on the next step. -7 times x cubed. If you draw the lines, you should be able to do this. -8x squared and 10x squared. What's -8 plus 10? 2x squared. Pause and then calculate. A little bit bigger, -80x, positive 25x. -80, positive 25, -55. Make sure you get your negative. And then a little bit bigger, but hey, what's 8 quarters? Isn't that 200 pennies? So that's -200. All right, now you might need a calculator. -7 times -55 might be tough. F of x equals -7x cubed. And then remember when I was talking about graphs, if we put that multiplier out in front, all it does is stretch or shrink the graph, but it keeps the zeros where they're at, or it flips it. In this case, it would flip and stretch. So do understand that. So -14x squared. What's 7 times 55? 350 and 35, 385, and it is positive. And then that's easy. That's 1400, and it is positive. So that's all it means, a leading coefficient of. It just has to be distributed at the end. And wait till the end. Makes your foiling easier in the middle. Now, I don't even think I want to do this one. Because isn't that just what we did at the beginning? And then you have to foil 3 times or whatever. Let's just stop it. Okay? Good to go. I'll go ahead and stamp and blah, 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 blah. Okay, don't have my mouse over here, so we got to do this